Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today I want to talk about a piece of news that came up recently. And I don't usually do news videos, you guys know that. I don't do it because I feel like a lot of news is sensationalized now. It's mostly clickbait. All you really get is an article's title and you just kind of run with it. We live in a world where news doesn't necessarily have to be true, it just has to be interesting, and then it gets spread and then they print a retraction much later after a lot of people are misinformed. I don't like that. I don't like to contribute to that. I don't want anything to do with that, which is why I usually wait, after a news story has come out, wait a few days, weeks, whatever, months even, perhaps years, and then kind of digest everything that we know about it to ultimately be true, and then discuss it. So I'm kind of doing that with this video, even though this news happened very recently, again, at the time I make it. The news specifically was in regards to Nintendo and an announcement they made. They recently had a press conference, again at the time I make this video, in which Satoru Iwata, current head of Nintendo, basically said that they're going to be working on mobile platforms. Now, there's more information to that, but again, sensationalism. People just misread this as Nintendo to make mobile games, giving up on Wii U and 3DS. Those are assumptions based on a misleading headline, and people start panicking and going nuts. Nintendo's going the way of Sega, it's over. Horribly misleading and not true at all. Nintendo's not going anywhere, let's get that out of the way up front. What's actually happening with this mobile thing is that Nintendo has made some deal with, I can't remember the name of the other company, I'd never heard of them before. This company is going to at least be distributing games based using Nintendo intellectual property, meaning, characters like Mario, Link, Metroid, etc., all those characters. But the games are not things that we would see on the 3DS, or the new 3DS, or the Wii U, etc. They're just advertisements, basically, like little shitty mobile games whose sole function is going to be, hey, did you like playing with this little Mario type of bullshit game you played? Well, there's a much better game over on the new 3DS. I'm just saying, maybe you should go over there and check that out. That's really all this is. The best historical example to compare this to in Nintendo's history would be the deal they made with Philips. When they did the CDI, Nintendo allowed Philips to use Mario and Zelda and all these their characters for their own games to more or less function as advertisements for the Super Nintendo. That's why those games on the CDI are terrible. Nintendo had nothing to do with them. They just let them use the intellectual property. So this machine that people perceived as what was probably going to be a very successful at-home learning tool and movie playback device would also be an advertisement platform for, hey, go get a Super Nintendo. That's really what the mobile gaming thing is. Now on to the second piece of news. Satoru Iwata was obviously very aware that the internet was going to react like it did, so he tried to calm that storm in advance, because he figured people would be, oh god, Nintendo's leaving gaming and they're doing mobile. So what he said was, oh, by the way, not only are we not doing that, here's a bit of a bombshell for you. Nintendo is coming up with a platform, temporarily at least the project name is NX. What that is just a code name, presumably for their next console. So let's talk about that, because that's very exciting to me in particular. Now, this is just a code name, okay? That's not a new thing. People are like, oh, the NX, that's such a horrible name for a console. Nintendo Extreme, what the hell? Chill. Every console Nintendo has ever done has had a code name. I think it was almost all of them. Let's go back through some recent history here. The Wii U's original project code name was Project Cafe. Was the Wii U ended up called Coffee? No, it was just, it's the Wii U. The Wii's code name at one point was the Revolution. GameCube was called the Dolphin. N64 was called the Ultra 64. Yes, in that case it's very similar, obviously. But you get my point. It's not the name of the console. It's just an acknowledgement that they have a code name for this thing. Now, it's also worth noting that officially, technically, we don't actually know this is a console. It could be a new handheld device. It could be some sort of add-on or accessory, though it's probably their new console. All logic would point to that direction. But just put it out there that technically we don't actually know that. So, well, all we can really do is speculate about what this console is, because We don't really know anything else, other than he said more details would come next year, meaning 2016. So a lot of you asked me to talk about this, so here's what I think is going to happen. This is my guess, and we'll see how right I turn out to be. If maybe I'll be completely wrong, who knows? But here's my guess. I think that Nintendo will formally announce this new console in summer, probably June of 2016, at maybe E3 or their own private Nintendo Direct-like event. I don't know. But they'll do some sort of announcement in June 2016 is my guess. And I think it'll retail probably in November of 2016. And that's it. that's my guess is what will happen with that console. We can speculate about hardware. I would assume it would be more powerful than the PS4 and the Xbox One, since it's going to come out presumably 3 years later than those. It would be really dumb if Nintendo screwed that up again. I think this will also be the last traditional game console. I've been very much on the record that I don't think there will be a 9th generation of game consoles, and I stand by that. And I know that sounds like a contradiction, since Nintendo is coming out with another machine. But if you go all the way back to when I first started saying this, when I first started I made a whole video about it, I did say that I thought Nintendo probably still would make their own, but they would be the only ones doing it. So it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Nintendo released a new console in like 2016, 2017, to kind of, yeah, they'd be getting out of the Wii U a little early, but it'd be long enough that people wouldn't be like really pissed off at them. And then it would probably be on the same level as the Xbox One and the PS4, probably a little bit more advanced at that point. And that could be the last console. Now, whether or not we call that a 9th generation or not, I don't know. That's something to be debated at the time. I think that's the best chance you have of another console coming out. It's mostly just to kind of catch up to what they should have already done. This is not the subject of this video, obviously, but I think Microsoft probably will make some sort of like Steam competitor, just using the Xbox name. I don't think they're going to make another piece of hardware. They might, but it might be like a little digital box. Sony, assuming they don't go bankrupt, and yes, that could happen. PlayStation 4, obviously very successful, but the rest of Sony Corporation is not, and they are losing lots of money, and they could actually go bankrupt. Will they? I don't know. Nobody really knows that, but I don't think Sony will make a conventional PS5. If they do release anything, the PS5 will probably be a little box like the PS TV, but even more so. Like, it'll just be a receiver box, like a Roku or something, and it just does PlayStation Now. You know, it just does streaming. And it has no local hardware of any kind that does any of the processing. It doesn't take physical media, etc. That's my guess with those two, which means that Nintendo would be left with the only conventional game console on the market. But hell, we don't even know if that's the case. For all we know, Nintendo's the NX could end up being some sort of digital platform only. I doubt it, but that's a guess. Yeah, so beyond that, I mean, feel free to speculate. Will it have backwards compatibility? No idea. I would assume no. I would assume that they want to distance themselves as far away from the Wii and the Wii U and the GameCube and everything else they've done as they possibly can. Will perhaps games be on like the eShop? Yes, probably. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be like native backwards compatibility. But that's it. We don't know any of that. That's all speculation. So this all begs the question, if Nintendo does all of this, what is the Wii U's future? And that's an interesting question, and here's what I think is going to happen with the Wii U. The Wii U is going to get shortchanged by a year, is my guess. Now, historically, Nintendo consoles get released every 5 or 6 years, depending on the console's success. Their two most successful consoles ever, financially, were the NES and the Wii. Now, each of those had a 6-year lifespan, and when I'm saying 6-year lifespan, I mean there was 6 years in terms of just calendar years between when it launched and its successor launched. So, for example, the NES launched in 1985 in the West, by the way. We're not counting Japanese launch dates because they're different, but they, I think, have around the same amount of time span. But it launched in 1985 in the West, and then its successor, the Super Nintendo, was launched in 1991. That's 6 years. The same is true with the Wii to the Wii U. The Wii came out in 2006, the Wii U came out in 2012, 6 years. But every other console they did only had 5 years. So, example, of course, SNES to N64, 1991, 1996. N64 to GameCube, 1996, 2001. GameCube to Wii, 2001, 2006. So, this will be a first in their history if this what I'm guessing happens actually goes through, they'll be the first Nintendo console ever, and we're not talking about handhelds or Virtual Boy or any of that shit. We're talking about the conventional game consoles that will have ever been shortchanged a year. That has never happened in Nintendo history. But props to them for not shortchanging it earlier and not pulling a Sega. I love Sega, but that was one of the dumbest things they would ever do, is routinely drop their hardware too quickly. But yes, back on point about the Wii U. So I think that, yes, it's going to get shortchanged a year. That annoys me because I love the Wii U. I think it's a genuinely amazing video game console. It really is very, very good. A lot of great experiences you can only have on it that are completely exclusive to it. But I get it. I completely get why they need to do this, quite frankly. I think in the short term with the Wii U, they'll continue to support it for the rest of the year, and we'll probably see some sort of slim model for it to cut costs, just to try and get more units sold, try to recover their brand name a bit, try to make people, remind people that Nintendo isn't that crappy company that made the bullshit Wii that everybody went, wow, that's the best dust collector I ever owned. The most people who bought a Wii didn't end up enjoying it. Like, it sold really well, but it sold to people who weren't going to buy video game consoles to begin with. Like your grandmother, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, you know. Like, you might be an exception if you bought a Wii and you loved it, but you are the exception. There's not too many people who bought a Wii that thought it was great. And that's what people started to associate Nintendo as being, is this, like, kiddie, gimmicky company that makes crap. Even though the Wii U is phenomenal. So, they want to recover their name and remind people of how great they used to be. So hopefully they put all of that into the NX, but at the same time, the Wii U's last function for this year needs to be to remind people of that. And I think the best way to do that is to get units in the homes. Now, I've said that they should drop the gamepad to make that financially possible. Now, people dispute this with me, but I'm not going to go over it again. But I did a whole video where I explained that. If you're interested, you can see that. Same with the Wii, by the way. A lot of people dispute whether or not the Wii was a piece of shit. It was a fucking piece of shit. But if you disagree, watch this video, and you'll at least maybe see my point. You may not agree with me at all. You may think I'm a moron. That's fine. But you might at least see where I'm coming from. But, yeah. I thought they should drop the gamepad. I think it's just too late in the game now. If they are going forward with another machine, the Wii U really only has a year left. They're probably not going to do that, especially with the success of Amiibos, which is ironic, actually. That Amiibos are what's kind of keeping the Wii U in there, and they're not actually part of it. So I would also assume, that's another thing we can speculate about, by the way, is the next one will probably be very focused on its ability to use Amiibos. But anyway, I would assume Nintendo is going to release a slim model that they can sell at a lower cost to people just to get in the homes. What we'll probably see is a bundle that's either physically smaller or just has reduced functions, meaning it probably won't have the component composite port. It probably will only use HDMI. They probably will strip out at least 2, if not 3 of the USB ports. They'll probably remove the SD card reader just to make the thing cheaper, and then probably make a smaller gamepad. That's my guess. And then you'll probably be able to buy that bundle. It'll probably include a bunch of digital games, like a lot of their big Nintendo hits that they've had over the last couple of years, just to make people go like, wow, that thing is pretty cool. I can't wait to see what they do next. Just my guess. So, yeah, that is unfortunate that we're probably seeing the end of the Wii U here, in a sense. Not for, at least not for another year. My guess, though, the Wii U's timetable, its final releases will probably come out, I would say, if I had to call it now, March 2017. That's my guess. I think that the last games for the Wii U will trickle out in March 2017, and they'll probably be like Skylanders and Disney Infinity stuff, because that's really the only stuff, other than Nintendo IPs, that sell on the Wii U. And Nintendo historically doesn't really support their consoles for particularly long after their next hardware comes out. I could be wrong about this, but I think the only game that came out for the Wii that was by Nintendo after the Wii U was out was the Kirby Dream Collection. And historically, that almost always happens. Nintendo drops their console like a stone and lets whatever third-party developers still want to work on it. But in the case of the Wii U, there are none. So Skylanders, my guess, is the only thing that's really going to come out after the NX launches. Usually, the last trickling games that come out on a platform after it's retired by everyone else are sports games. The Wii U is doing so badly, it doesn't even get them. Which is kind of nice as a collector, because I don't give a shit about sports games. But Just wrap your mind around that. Think about how many sports games exist on like every console ever made. This console did so badly that all of them went, fuck it, not worth it. People debate whether or not the Wii U is successful. I don't know how you could even debate that, but to anyone who says this, they're like, oh, well, it sold so many millions of units. How could it be unsuccessful? Ugh. It's like, all right, let me drop let's show you some science on you. Sega, my beloved Sega, who made my favorite console of all time, the Sega Dreamcast. The Sega Dreamcast, in the eyes of the public, is perceived as the console that did so badly that Sega went under and they had to make third-party support. They could only do third-party stuff. That's how it's perceived. It's grossly incorrect, but, well, misinformed, I guess I should say. It's like the clickbait stuff. But that's how it's perceived. Now, that console launched in September of 1999 and was discontinued in March of 2001. That's a year and a half. Do you know how many units it sold in that time? 10.6 million worldwide. Wii U, on the other hand, has been out for almost 2.5 years. Not quite 2.5, but almost 2.5 years. Again, at the time I make this video. Do you know how many units it sold worldwide? 9.3. 9.3 million. That means the console that, in the eyes of the public, drove the mighty juggernaut Sega into the ground and made them give up on, making consoles, outsold the Wii U by 1.3 million units in a year less. Maybe you see why Nintendo wants to move away from the Wii U, despite the fact that the Wii U is awesome. But, yeah, I mean, I know this is kind of an all-over-the-place type of video, but that's really my thoughts on the matter, is that we really don't know much about the NX, but we won't know much about it for another year, as far as I'm concerned. But that's my guess, is that I think it's going to come out probably in 2016, November 2016. I was hoping for 2017. I was hoping they would squeeze the 5th year out, but I can see why they're not. And I think the Wii U is just going to be kind of swept under the rug pretty much immediately after that happens. So, there you go. But the thing about the Wii U you gotta love it for is that it does truly have a lot of amazing exclusive games on it. And it will probably be much more respected down the line than it is now. Now it's kind of a punchline, but I could see down the line, in any number of years, like, wow, you guys didn't support that? Like, kind of like the Dreamcast. You guys didn't support that? That was awesome. Why did you skip out on that? I could see that being what happens with the Wii U. But, hey. So, you guys leave your thoughts. What do you think all this means? Do you agree with me? Do you think your beard's ridiculous? Fucking cut your hair. I know, I swear I'm on it. But yeah, just leave me your thoughts below. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later.